You thought I forgot, didn't you? Now that I've finally gotten room to breathe thanks to the endless amounts of Thanksgiving turkey I've eaten, it's time for me to get back into the cases I wanted to cover before. I've been sitting on these cases since Halloween, and while I probably should have put it out during the spooky month, I guess better late than never. Today I bring you 6 odd, paranormal, and disturbing cases I found while searching the web. That being said, grab some of your favorite leftovers and plug in your nightlight. Me and my friend Sky are going to take you on a journey through the dark once again. As always, links to all of these stories will be in the description below.
Sitting on John Street and 10th Avenue, in the neighborhood of Capitol Hill, sat one of the most odd and curious findings in the entirety of Seattle, Washington. A retro-style Coca-Cola machine used to sit in front of the Broadway locksmith shop, containing an assortment of random soda which you can get by pressing the 5 buttons labeled with the question marks. Initially, the machine used to contain Coke products, but then it began containing items which had not been in circulation since the 1980s, such as Crystal Pepsi and Hubba Bubba soda. No one knows who restocks this machine, according to local businesses, and it continued to only stock Pepsi and Coke products. So why am I talking to you about this random soda machine? Well, that's because not too long ago, it disappeared. In June of 2018, the graffiti-defaced machine vanished with a note left in its place. The note read, "Went for a walk." Not long after this, the official Facebook page for this machine, yes, you heard me right, made an update stating, "Going for a walk. Need to find myself. Maybe even take a shower." While it has been away, photoshopped images have been uploaded to the page featuring the now cleaned machine in different locations such as Machu Picchu. The page is still active, surprisingly, and even posted as recently as October 19th of this year. After the disappearance, many people have thought that Broadway Locksmith, the business where the machine was sat in front of, had a hand in the disappearance. After multiple interviews from USA Today and Vice, however, their story has maintained consistency from all employees. They aren't aware of who owns the machine or stocks it, as they have never seen anyone come to maintain it. A bizarre case, to say the least.
On June 26th of 2019, a user by the name of BleachPong made a post to the paranormal subreddit. His post read, "First of all, I have never believed in ghosts, and I don't consider my home to be a creepy place at all. The house was only built about 9 years ago, and as far as I know, the land it's on doesn't even have a dark history of any kind. However, ever since we moved in, we have experienced some strange things. The weirdest part is most of what we have experienced involves toys, aside from the one time my brother says he clearly heard our dad calling his name from downstairs, only to find out that he was the only one home. One recurring thing that we've had tons of times over the years is the sound of someone digging around in this big plastic tub of Lego pieces. When we were kids, we all collected and built Bionicles all the time in our playroom upstairs. The sound of shifting the pieces around to look for a part makes a very loud and distinct noise that everyone in our house became familiar with. But it was common for us to hear it when we were certain that no one was up there. When we got older, we stored our vast collection of Bionicles and tub of loose parts in a long chest, and we've continued to hear the noise coming from there every now and then. We've always been confused and weirded out by the sound, but we never bothered to record the noises just because everyone in our house has heard it firsthand, and a recording of the sound of Legos in the next room didn't seem like it would interest anyone else. We told a friend about this who thought it was crazy and insisted that we record it next time. Not long after that, both of my brothers were watching TV and heard the sound down the hall. They immediately started recording, and we got pretty decent audio of the noise. We sent the clip to our friend, who showed it to several other people who got creeped out and started wanting to spend the night at our house to hear it for themselves. When they came over, our parents heard all the hype about the video and wanted to hear it. So we just Chromecast it to our living room TV so everyone could watch it together. That's when we all noticed that one large bionicle. It's one we designed as kids to be huge, so it towers over the store-bought ones. In the back of the closet, turns its head towards us right as we're leaving. No one had noticed it before watching on phone screens because it's fairly small, and we all thought the action was over anyway by that point in the video. We immediately went upstairs to check it out and found it in the same position it's in at the start of the video. Although its neck joint is pretty rigid anyway, so we don't think we could have just dropped it or that it'd fallen. It's definitely pretty eerie. I want to reiterate that we have never felt unsafe in our home. We are not bothered by the things we've experienced, but they are a little strange. Let me know what you think. Here's the video attached to the post.
Dude, I can clearly hear that. Yeah, I hear that loudly. Dude, that is weird. That's loud. That's loud. Yeah, that's very loud. Go in. Come. It's coming right now. Shh. What the heck? Dude, there's nothing. What is that coming out? There's nobody up here. There's literally nothing in here. And look how heavy this is. Yeah. Hang on, there's nothing up here. What the crap? There's nothing in here either, look. I could hear it when we got about halfway down the hallway. Yeah, it stopped as we got closer.
I just heard once. Like I came out and heard like shh. That's all I heard.
Yeah, but we heard it when we were sitting there. We were just sitting there and we heard
You heard it start?
Yeah, we heard it start and it went for like,
How long ago before you got me?
it probably went for about 10 seconds, 10 or 15
Oh,
seconds.
let's watch it. Let's watch it. You'll watch it.
Hang on, there's nothing up here. Hang on, there's nothing up here.
Do you think this user truly caught something paranormal, or could we possibly have a hoax on our hands? Let me know what you think in the comments below. It was November 24th of 1971, also known as Thanksgiving Eve. A middle-aged man wearing a black suit and tie was seen carrying a suitcase while boarding a flight from Portland International Airport. The man, who called himself Dan Cooper, ordered a drink while awaiting takeoff to Seattle. A 30-minute trip would soon span an entire day. At 2:50 p.m., Flight 305 departed Portland to Seattle, and it was shortly after this that Dan Cooper would make his mark on history. He pulled the flight attendant, Florence Schaffner, to the side and handed her a note. Seemingly being handed what she assumed was a lonely man's phone number, she left it in her purse unopened. It was then that Cooper then leaned towards her and whispered, "Miss, you'd better take a look at that note. I have a bomb." At some point, it was speculated that Cooper reclaimed the note, and after showing the bomb to Schaffner, Cooper then demanded $200,000 in what he called negotiable American currency, 4 parachutes, 2 primary and 2 reserve, and a refueling truck stationed in Seattle upon arrival. When Florence relayed this message to the pilots, she had noticed that Cooper had for some reason obscured his eyes with sunglasses when she had returned. The flight circled around as police scrambled to get the demands met, and strangely, Schaffner noted that at no point was Cooper anything but calm and thoughtful. He even offered to request meals for the flight staff after the pit stop in Seattle. He ordered another bourbon and soda, even paying his tab as well. What set investigators off course was when flight attendant Tina Mucklow mentioned that Cooper was very familiar with the terrain. He managed to point out an airbase 20 minutes out of Seattle as the McChord Air Force Base, and mentioned Tacoma as they passed over it. Strangely, he even rejected the military-issue parachutes gotten for him, requesting separate civilian chutes with manual ripcords. After the landing, Cooper released the passengers and another stop for refueling was planned in Reno, Nevada. As they flew towards Reno, at approximately 8 p.m., Cooper instructed Tina Mucklow to join the crew inside the cockpit and remain there with the door closed. Shortly after, a warning light flashed stating that the aft stairs had been lowered in the back of the plane. Cooper refused assistance over the intercom, stating that earlier on he wanted the staircase down while taking off in his demands. This, of course, was denied as it wouldn't be safe for the pilots to take off. When the plane landed at approximately 10:15 p.m., the plane was searched. D.B. Cooper was gone. Many speculated he had jumped under the cover of darkness, and incredibly, there were 5 planes trailing the flight, yet none of them had seen Cooper jump. This case borders on the bizarre as multiple suspects came and went consistently, and the D.B. Cooper case has never been solved. The files on the case were actually released by the FBI, and for that reason, I don't actually intend to dive into the investigation too much. There's a video here by Lamino, who does an absolutely amazing job covering it on their channel, so go give them a shout and tell them that I sent you. But this case is really, truly bizarre.
Off the west coast of Scotland sits a small cluster of islands called the Flannan Isles. Out in the middle of a deep blue ocean sits a lighthouse on the very peak of Eilean Moor, which at one point hosted one of the oddest cases in the 1900s. On December 18th, 1900, the Hesperus relief vessel was sent to help with repairing the lighthouse. When they arrived, there was no flag waving. Their food boxes were awaiting resupply by the dock, and strangely, none of the 3 men stationed there welcomed the relief party. James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, and William MacArthur had seemingly vanished off the earth. There was no trace of them. Captain James Harvey and his crew conducted a full search in tandem with the National Lighthouse Board and noticed that the beds were unmade, yet their oil lamps were clean and oilskins untouched. No bodies were ever found. But the western landing had shown that there had been high storm damage done to the surrounding area. Iron railings were bent and ripped out of the concrete. Rocks weighing a ton had been displaced, and a turf had been ripped away from the cliffside. It was speculated that the men had swept out to sea during a storm, yet there were no reports of a storm happening from the 12th to the 15th. It was also theorized that MacArthur was a volatile character and a brawler who could have potentially killed his partners before throwing himself into the ocean. The family of Ducat and MacArthur were told that they were swept away to sea while securing a box of landing ropes. Whether or not we will ever know what truly happened to Ducat, MacArthur, and Marshall is truly a mystery.
Up until 1989 on Route 16 near Fayetteville, West Virginia, a billboard could easily be seen with the images and ages of 5 children. Maurice, 15. Martha, 12. Louis, 9. Jenny, 8. And Betty, 5. These were the Sodder children, and how they wound up on this billboard is one of the most eerie circumstances that could ever happen to a family. This mystery left many dumbfounded, as the only people who could ever know if they were alive or dead would be the children themselves. The only certain fact was that on the night before Christmas in 1945, George and Jenny Sodder, along with 9 of their 10 children, went to sleep. As the kids were doing chores, Jenny and little Sylvia Sodder retired to bed. It was around 12:30 a.m. though, when a phone call had awoken Jenny. The caller was a complete stranger to the Sauter family who was asking for another complete stranger, supposedly at that number. She could hear what she described as a woman's weird laugh, and with the sound of clinking glasses in the background. She hung up and fell asleep, only to be awoken again around 1 a.m. She woke to hear a loud bang followed by a rolling noise, but ignored it. Shortly after, a fire began to engulf the house stemming from George's office. George tried to get back up to the attic where his children slept, and he screamed for them, but later revealed he couldn't actually see the children at all. The phone lines were not working and were later revealed to be cut. Strangely, a ladder which they were going to use to save the children was also missing from the property and was found in an embankment about 75 feet away from the home. It was never found until after the fire. George had attempted to use his work trucks to reach the attic window, but neither of them would start despite having been in perfect condition the day before. With every way to save his children thwarted, they had to watch the house burn to the ground. Sadly, only George, Jenny, and 4 of their children managed to make it out in time. The fire department, which lacked resources due to the ongoing war, had arrived at 8 a.m. the earliest, and had determined that faulty wiring was the cause of the fire. Mind you, this is about a 7-hour difference from when the fire actually began. Ironically, there was a man who warned George about how his comments on Benito Mussolini would bring him onto the bad side of his community, and that man was actually a juror at the inquest case of the Sauter children. It was also revealed that another visitor to the Sauter house had mentioned that the wiring of his fuse box could cause a fire, even though the electric company had approved it. Strangely, it was also mentioned that George's older sons had been seeing cars parked around town that seemed to have people keeping an eye on the children weeks before the incident had unfolded. The story oddly doesn't stop there, though. As the family had been looking for leads for years, they were sent a letter from Central City, Kentucky with no return address. Inside was a picture of a 30-year-old man that resembled one of the missing children, Louis Sauter. Nothing ever came of this photo, unfortunately, yet this gave the family hope to continue on searching, even though the only youngest one, Sylvia, has remained alive to this very day. Thank you so much for watching this video, and a big thank you to Skyxem for helping me not only with this video script, but by lending me his lovely voice for our journey today. Please support him by checking out his links in the description. Remember that you are loved. And sweet dreams, my wonderful collective.